If you're the parent of an adolescent, watching your daughter grow and begin to move out into the world is hard. You see the sum total of your child-rearing choices combined with her newfound agency and individuality. You're no longer in control. But what if there was a way to make sure that your daughter always had you in mind when she went out? What if you could ensure that she finds the right partner and doesn't get hurt? What if there was a surefire guarantee that your bloodline will continue? What if you could date your daughter? I'm Josh Borman.
I'm June Sternbach.
And this is Ill Conceived, a podcast about natalism. All right, we are so unbelievably back. June, I've cooked up a real corker of an episode for you this week. I hope you're ready.
I'm kind of scared to learn about some of this stuff, so this is a topic, the like father daughter dance thing and like the whole culture behind that wasn't, as far as I'm aware, really prevalent in the Midwest at all. It's like more of a traditional like Southern Christian type thing. So I was only like exposed to any of this in like the last decade or so, just through like me digging into this on my own accord.
It's definitely one of those things that is going to be out there when you're talking about denominations like forms of Christianity that are very conservative and very tied up in the political project as well.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
one of the big things that we're going to learn over the course of this episode, is that not only is like the purity ball and the purity ring and all that kind of stuff a model of a relationship for individuals, it's also a model of a relationship that they want for society more broadly.
Yeah.
But before we dig into purity balls, June, how you been?
The world has been really fucking bleak lately.
Yeah.
Just for political reasons. There was the shooting in Minnesota today, and it's just every once in a while I forget just how insincere so much of society is these days, and like irony poisoned, and like you know me, I love a good like little ironic joke. I love some irony, but I'm just trying to do my best to remember that sincerity is insanely important. You caught me at a weird time where I'm doing research about like some like nihilistic death cults,
right?
For an episode of Kill the Computer we're going to be recording very soon, and like related to this recent Minnesota shooting. And it's like, goddamn, like the internet and like being constantly surveilled by each other, and like everyone, the government, everything at all times is like kind of changing how people relate to each other and talk to each other. And it's, I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot about sincerity and like cynicism and how that actually like is an ideology these days. Not like a specific political ideology, but it is like how a lot of people feel, and it's driving people to very like scary places.
Well, I think it's hard not to feel cynical and detached when we're in a moment where it seems like nothing that anybody does causes anything to happen, you know?
And it's like, I understand why people feel that way is the thing. Right. I totally understand why people feel like there's no hope. Like, absolutely. That makes so much sense.
But there has to be hope, right? And I think that's something that I think that both of us have been wanting to do with this show from the very beginning, is not just to be a show about like doom and gloom, oh man, everything sucks, because I think that you can start to sort of wallow around in it to the point that it's not helpful anymore.
Yeah.
We are going to be looking at some weird guys, as per usual. We are going to be talking about some pretty upsetting stuff, but it's also my hope that by the end of this episode, if this is something you are unfamiliar with, that it's going to sort of provide you the tools to understand it and talk about it.
Yeah.
And if it's something that you did experience, that it will be somehow helpful or healing. That's my hope, at least. And then, of course, if you had experience with this kind of stuff in your own upbringing, right? If you did a purity ball, if you did a ring exchange, one of those purity ring exchanges, any of that, let us know about it as well, because we would love to hear from you. And to that point, we might as well open up the mailbag, as we are wont to do every week, because even though we had that Oops All mailbag episode, I saved
There's still
one.
more. There's still so much.
I saved one, and I'm just going to go ahead and read this one real quick. So this is from James. Hello to the inconceivably goated co-hosts of the Ill-Conceived podcast.
Aw, thank you. Wow. That's the first time I've been just goated in that way. That's a great honor.
It's a goated bite.
Yeah.
I'm a high school science teacher in a Chicago public school. I wanted to thank you both for the depth and breadth that you put into thinking about and researching how the natalist movement intersects with education policy, including the parents' rights movement and its open attacks on education and educators. For two people who are not directly involved in education, I'm very impressed by how much you got right about how Christian nationalists are using educational spaces, including both schools and libraries, as a battleground over the past several years. The community within which I teach is composed mostly of Latin American immigrant families, which correlate strongly with a certain type of Catholicism. As a lefty who has been doing this work for decades and who believes that having strong and trusting relationships with my students is foundational to high-quality teaching, I've had multiple experiences over the years where I was the first adult who a trans student trusted to know about their trans identity, even before they were ready to come out to their parents. I think that what usually happens in such cases is that a teenager is exploring their identity and shares that with their friends, but fears that their family isn't ready to see them for who they are yet. In that sense, schools can be a safe place for students to be themselves if we create and maintain schools that embrace all children for who they are and celebrate their authentic selves without bias and judgment. I think it's important to recognize that teenagers absolutely need spaces in which they can explore their gender identity and sexual identity, and I very much appreciated how both of you clarified how the parents' rights movement, like the natalist movement more broadly, is designed very specifically to foreclose the existence of spaces in which teenagers feel safe to engage in any kind of exploratory identity work, including and especially educational spaces. I also appreciated your broader analysis of the politics of education, including Title IX and the conservative fear of unionized teachers. I recognize that it's less central to your beat, as it were, the natalism movement, but as a delegate of the Chicago Teachers Union and as someone who has walked a picket line multiple times, I do think it's important to make the connection between natalism and the other conservative movements that it overlaps with, including political and societal attacks on labor. To that point, I'd love to hear your take on the connection between the natalist movement and the billionaire class. The most salient political opposition to labor here in Chicago is a group called the Illinois Policy Institute, which is a project founded and funded by a small group of billionaires, including Ken Griffin, Dick Uihlein, and Bruce Rauner, all of whom are also associated with other conservative movements, including the natalist movement. Thanks again for your deep and thoughtful approach to your coverage of education and for the show. Thank you, James, for that very eloquent email.
And that's something that specifically the parents' rights movement, that's been something that's, I feel like as a trans person, like been on my radar maybe since around 2022, 2023. I think it really came to the forefront in like right-wing cultural spaces and political spaces, especially online in the last like 2 years, especially with like Florida, I think, as I mentioned in that episode. But the reason it's like so notable to me is just that it is so clear on the face what it's really about. It's not about the parents choosing proper like education for their kids. It's about parental control over their kids, and specifically in the sphere of being like queer or gay or trans. Them saying like, "Oh, I would never let my kid, my teen, do this," and it's like what that's like you shouldn't really be like telling your kid or teen who they can and cannot
also
be.
What do you mean let them?
Yeah,
like,
let them.
They're gonna do it with or without your permission.
There's so much more to talk about with this, but the reason why the right is freaking out so much about like trans issues and LGBTQ plus issues recently is just that it symbolizes a loss of control, and to a lot of these people, control is mostly the most important thing, the most important aspect of their ideology.
I think that's a big thing that we're going to be talking about in today's episode. What control means in this context, particularly in a gendered context when we're talking about things like purity, right? The other thing that I just wanted to note, just that James had asked about the connection between the natalist movement and the billionaire class.
Oh, God, yeah.
We will be talking about it. Don't worry.
It's one of those things I think Josh and I kind of were like, we're going to do episodes about these people.
The Elon Musk episode will be happening. The only question is when.
That's going to be like a very important episode, I feel like, to just like do really well as like a broad look at these people. So there will be that connection very soon, probably. more to come on that.
Absolutely. And very much too, looking into these organizations, who's funding them, how they're doing it. We will look into it. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, and the Uline thing. So I'm from Kenosha, Wisconsin. That's where Uline is based. That's where
really?
the Uline company is based. Yeah. So it's like it's been a part of like my sphere of awareness for most of my life.
Oh, that's like me with Amway. I just grew up with that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just like always known about Uline and just like the evils of the company. It's a very conservative company. It's
right.
So I don't know if we'll move on to the actual episode in just a second, but like for people who aren't aware of like the Uline company, it's like a general like goods company. They give like they provide like paper towels, boxes, lots of just like work
packaging, that kind of thing.
But the owner of the company, the Uline family, is super conservative. They're one of the biggest Trump backers just in the country. So they're a very influential family in this country, and it's so weird that they were just like in my backyard, essentially.
Do you know if they're evangelicals?
I don't actually know their specific religious affiliation. I just know that they're very traditionalist.
They're Christians, though.
They're definitely Christians who work in their offices. You have to wear, if you're a man, you have to wear a suit, tie, dress pants.
Oh, hell yeah.
If you're a woman, you have to have like a top, like skirt. Yep. Like tights,
no pants allowed on the women. I'm assuming
no pants allowed. It's like they're that kind of like work family situation. So they're probably an extreme Christian branch. I just don't know which one.
Well, we'll look into that as well, and that'll be a fun one. But why don't we get into the subject matter for today's episode, which is
I can't wait.
When you want to date your daughter. So
a lot of Christians seem to want to do this.
They really do. So when James Dobson died, we got a number of messages from people pointing different things out. And just in general, I was watching a lot of the discourse fly around on Blue Sky. And every time people read this, they get surprised. This stuff that Dobson wrote about how, like, what boys need to do to understand what it means to be a man is to, like, go into the shower and shower with their dad and see their dad's penis and understand that, like, when you get bigger, you'll have a bigger penis, whatever. And then the way for a father to help their daughter is to go on dates with them. And these are dates that are romantic, that will demonstrate what a good romantic date ought to look like. Now,
very odd.
Very odd. Now, he's not saying in this that you should, like, have sex with your kid. In neither case is he saying this. But it is weird to be like, you should definitely shower with your son and you should definitely go on dates with your daughter.
And like at a base level, if we're giving any amount of grace to like what he's saying here, like true, what he's basically saying is like raise your kids to have like decent values, I guess, is like at the baseline what he's in a very insane way. Like, of course, and his values are not like good values, but that's like what he's, I think, saying when he says like, oh, bring your daughter on a date.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and to honor the good doctor, I have pulled a 60-minute clip.
Yeah, this whole episode is just going to be James Dobson talking.
No, I pulled a 60-second clip of James Dobson on his FamilyTalk Dobson Minute, or whatever the fuck it was called.
Sometimes it seems today that courtesy and respect have been replaced by hostility toward women.
So
Here's
true, James.
Today's Dr. Dobson Minute with Dr. James Dobson.
Now, predictably, I suppose, this attitude is also evident at times in the young men who date our daughters. There's an approach to this problem that I like. A father in Northern Virginia has allowed his 7-year-old daughter to start dating. But here's the catch. He's always the date. Every couple of months, he takes her out to eat.
Shoot your face.
That's weird.
And during the course of that evening, he treats her as a gentleman should. That way, when she's old enough to start dating other guys, she'll know what to expect from them. I think dads should also model courtesy for their boys by treating their mothers with respect every day in the home. The bottom line is that there's a right and wrong way for a man and a woman to relate to each other, and the key ingredient is respect.
For more information, visit drdobsonminute.org.
So, two things. First thing, being able to listen to this and knowing this motherfucker is dead, it feels
it hits
fun.
different.
It hits so different.
Yeah.
But thing two, June, your thoughts?
Respect is like a good thing, but the whole oh, you need to bring your daughter on a date to like model courtesy and respect is fucking weird. What do you mean? Why is that? Why are they talking about it like in a romantic sense? That is so fucking weird. I don't like that. That's so fucking weird.
It's weird not just because of the overtones, but also because like you could just say this a normal way.
Yeah.
Why don't you just say, you know what? You can have a lot of fun. Take your kid out for a nice meal and talk to them about like what you like about them and ask them questions. And wouldn't that be so fun?
It's not like there's not words. Like in a not normal words to describe taking your children out to do things and like teach them valuable things like respect. That fucking bizarre.
I don't even necessarily mind the usage of the terminology of date. A date can be a lot of different things. Like for adults,
absolutely.
obviously, a date means something very specific. But it's like, when I was a kid, my dad would regularly, for each of us, like have a time where we'd go out and do something one-on-one. It was fun, right? Like
for sure.
I got to look forward to these fun times. I remember one time he took me down to a Disney Quest in Chicago. Did you ever go to Disney Quest?
I never did. No, I was not really a Disney kid.
Well, Disney Quest was that arcade that they set up down on the Magnificent Mile. It was on North Michigan Avenue, and it was like Disney's brief attempt to sort of like do virtual theme parks in major American cities.
Okay.
And I think there was going to be one in New York too, and then the Chicago one didn't quite pan out, and they had to stop the project.
Can I learn about this on Defunctland?
You can, I think. I think he did one about Disney Quest. If he didn't, somebody else did. Yeah.
I'll look into it. That sounds fascinating.
Fun. But my point is, my memory of that experience was having fun, playing pinball, spending time in Chicago with my dad, and then coming back home, then the next day, for some reason, going to school and just sleeping the entire day. I don't know why he took me down to Chicago on a school night.
That's wild. And like that's like a thing like with parenting. I'm not a parent.
Right.
But I think an important part of being a parent is like actively spending time with your kid.
Yeah.
That's like a very, of course, like important aspect of growing up as a child is like having those parental figures in your life.
But that's not quite what they're talking about here. Like, it's not what they're talking about, but there's an implication to it that comes back to this idea of men need to do certain things in order to demonstrate the value of masculinity to women. And these are girls who are going to grow up to become women. And if their dads aren't demonstrating a certain type of chivalry, then these girls aren't going to be able to figure out what's best for them or what they really want.
Basically, what this is trying to do is instill traditional gender norms into people very young. And what that additionally does is like an implicit sense of telling these kids, these girls, that they need to like submit to men.
Right.
That's like essentially what this is.
And that submission, of course, will eventually contribute to the continuation of the bloodline, right? This does fundamentally roll up to something that I think is natalist. The idea being that these are things that you demonstrate so that in the long term, we can have more children.
It instills the idea that these girls to be adults eventually exist for the men. Like they're being like raised for the men.
So here's another clip that I found. This is from Family Life, which is another Christian radio show.
Why do they all have these names? Sorry, I feel like they're always like, oh, Family Love, Family Life, Heritage.
They want to have a monopoly on those terms. Genuinely, it is actual, honest to goodness linguistic warfare where they're trying to capture certain concepts, right? And Family Life is a radio show that's not unlike Focus on the Family, where it's just talking about, like, here's some tips to raise your kids. And there's a two-parter, we'll link it down in the notes, that profiles two people. One of them is named Rob Teagan. He's from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
It's like either that or Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
It's like there's two places that exist in these movements.
Well, there's the secret third option, which is Austin, Texas, which is where this guy Greg Wright is from. So we'll get to their books in a second, but this is Family Life co-hosts Dennis Rainey and Bob Lapine talking about their approach to dating their daughters.
I always viewed it like this. My daughters are getting ready to go into, when they were little, they were getting ready to go into grade school and then junior high and high school. And I knew they were heading into those challenging years, those perilous years. of adolescence. And I wanted to have the bridge of my relationship with my daughters in place so the traffic could go in this direction and in the other direction across that bridge so that there could be dialogue between us. I didn't want that bridge to go down. And so I viewed dating my daughter around the age of 3 or 4 as beginning to build that bridge of a relationship.
What?
So that it was fully in place.
What?
And I want to tell you something. When you get into adolescence, it takes work to keep the bridge open because there's a lot of obstacles and barricades and bombs that get thrown on that bridge to blow it up.
Well, you were also painting a picture for your daughters of who God is, because they're getting their picture of who their Heavenly Father is from the relationship they're having with their earthly father.
And God pursues us and wants a relationship with us. And I think dads need to realize that they do get, to Bob's point here, our daughters do get their first picture of who God is from their earthly father. And so the question is, how will they remember you as a stern, strict, no nonsense, no fun, never smile, always talking about the rules and lecturing and preaching and teaching? Or will they remember you as getting down on the floor, wrestling with them when they're really little, and then later on taking them out on a special Coke date or a cup of coffee as they get older? The point is that as daddies, we bear this responsibility. Nobody else can do this for us.
A Coke date. I've never heard of a Coke.
I think that's the Southern thing, right? Like, you go get a Coke. Go get yourself a Coke. I do like the idea of it being a cocaine date, though. I think that's kind of funny, doing lines with your daughter.
The strangest thing, I mean, there was a lot in that clip, but I feel like the strangest thing in this discussion that they were having was the idea that, like, a girl's father on earth is somehow close to equivalent to God. Of course, that's not exactly what they're saying. They're not saying like, oh, your father is God. But the implication of what he said was that man is like a model for God, for like the Heavenly Father, which is, I don't know. As a Catholic, that seems kind of insane to me. Like, growing up Catholic, that sounds insane.
Well, I think what they're saying is that the man of the household is the head and is the one who sort of says what goes and lays down rules of acceptable behavior in much the same way that our Heavenly Father does that for all of humanity.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and I read their books, Rob and Greg, and you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, genuinely. What did you learn?
I learned a lot of things. I learned how to bond with my daughter, who doesn't exist, by the way, but for future reference, I know how. The books are called 88 Great Daddy-Daughter Dates. That's Rob's book.
Okay.
And then Greg's book is called Daddy Dates. These books sort of, I guess you could say, complement each other because Great Daddy-Daughter Dates, 88 Great Daddy-Daughter Dates, is about how to, like, stuff to do with your young kid, like 6 to 12 years old, right? That age range.
Yeah.
And most of it is pretty normal. And then Daddy Dates is more of a philosophical treatise on what it means to be a good dad.
Okay.
And talks then pretty specifically about how to make the pivot from doing these fun little dates with your daughter when she's a little kid to preparing her for being pure. Right. And the virginity stuff and everything that we sort of talked about with that abstinence-only education episode. So, like I said, in 88 Great Daddy-Daughter Dates, pretty normal stuff for the most part. Recommendations are like, go mini golfing, go to a pet store and look at some animals, bake homemade pizzas in the kitchen, make mom breakfast in bed, go bowling, go berry picking, right? Like
all
really
great
normal stuff.
You don't have to be religious to do any of that.
No.
Like, that's genuinely great, fun activities. Yeah, absolutely.
But here's what's kind of interesting about the book. The stuff that jumped out at me, right, was not the activities, which are, again, by and large, just fun, normal things to do. And also things that you wouldn't just have to do with your daughter.
Yeah.
You could do it with your son, too, or your non-binary child. My beautiful, beautiful non-binary child.
Absolutely.
But it's the guidance, right? There's guidance about how to sort of have a conversation with your kid about the stuff you did on the date and the lessons they should sort of take away from that, right? It's like a teachable moment.
So this person's like doing a bullet list, like a BuzzFeed list about like fun things, and then editorializes about God in between.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here is the guidance for breakfast in bed. A mother's life centers around the well-being of her family. She juggles countless details to keep the household running and make sure each person in the family is cared for. Sometimes she runs out of time or energy to take care of herself. Recognizing her loving efforts and taking time to lighten her load, even for one day, means so much to a busy mom. Read Proverbs 31, verses 10 to 31 with your daughter. Take note of the ways that mom compares to the wife and mother in the passage. Does she get up early to make school lunches? Does she juggle a career on top of managing the household? Does she encourage each of you with her words? Today, you took the time to arise and call her blessed.
No, that's where the like religious aspects come in here. It's I guess the debrief of the activities, the like, okay, now let's talk. I don't know what 31:10:31 Proverbs is, but I assume, if I had to assume, just a quick guess, it's probably something to do with traditional gender roles, especially in society or whatever. There's
really two chunks of the Bible that are bandied about by these sort of traditional Christians. The first one is Proverbs 31. The second is Titus 2. And both of these talk about like ways that a woman should be and the things that a woman should do. And Proverbs 31 verses 10 to 31 are basically like, what is a wife of noble character? What are the things that she does? And it's just like all of the shit that this woman does because she's a good wife. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She's very industrious, the wife of noble character. And generally speaking, for traditional Christians, it's like, okay, women can be doing some things, but they need to still be within the context of like she's honoring her husband by doing these tasks.
For sure. And I do wonder, and I'm sure I could seek this out easily, what some of these people would think about this. People these days, especially in the modern age, where men are the homemakers, I'm sure that would be horrifying to anyone within this ideology, within this like natalist Christian ideology. Like that is just unacceptable.
Well, it's certainly not ideal for the woman to be the one setting the tempo. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Other things that this book recommends doing, these daughter-daddy dates, is going dress shopping. This is one where, again, I really want to read a little bit of this. And just, I want to know what jumps out at you here, June.
Okay.
Choosing a new dress is one way you're getting ready for a special day. Taking the time to look your best and putting on something different from the ordinary makes it even more memorable. God made his girls to be beautiful on the outside and the inside. And then there's a couple Bible verses, which I will skip to spare you. Even when we're having a bad hair day or our clothes are out of style, God is looking at how we love him and each other. Let's enjoy dressing up our hearts with his kind of beauty. And then there's a prayer. Dear Father, thank you for my beautiful girl. Not only is she wonderful to look at on the outside, she has a sweet spirit and kindness that make her shine. Please protect her mind from believing that her worth is found in her looks. Help her to care more about her heart attitudes than her outfits. May the dress we found today bring a smile whenever she wears it. We'll be remembering her heart and her inner beauty. We love you. Amen.
So what I'm noticing more specifically is the thing in the corner that you didn't read.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah, that is important.
I'll read this.
Yes, please.
This is a statement, I guess, from Jim Bishop.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
I don't either.
Sound off in the comments if you know who Jim Bishop is, folks.
But this reads as, watching your daughter being collected by her date feels like handing over $1 million Stradivarius to a gorilla? Like, what do you fucking mean? I don't know. That's what really stood out to me. And like that goes into the whole like ownership culture, the men being owners, like handing over your daughter to like someone her age.
Yeah, well, this is what's weird. What the fuck is this quote doing here? Because
it seems to be counter of what this whole thing is trying to say.
Yes, and also this is supposedly guidance for like going and doing stuff with your young daughter up to the age of 12. Like, this is not supposed to be about what will happen when she becomes an adolescent and starts dating. This is just supposed to be about, oh, my little girl looks so nice. Like, what's going on here?
Like, unless things are different in the South, I don't think.
No. This is the book that was written by the guy from Michigan, June.
No, yeah. Like, people are not like the average teen does not start dating until like what, 15, maybe as young as 14.
Right.
So to conflate these two things, the handing off this ownership with, I don't know, man. There is something ominous here that I just don't understand how no one reading this, like genuinely reading this to get guidance as to being a father, doesn't see that and just have like alarm bells going off.
Yeah, do the Kill Bill siren, right?
Yeah.
It's also like, it's so interesting the way that this is trying to have it both ways. She looks great on the outside, but she looks so great on the inside. And like, it doesn't matter how she looks, but also she's really pretty.
Yeah.
And it's an impossible, I mean, this is, of course, the impossible dichotomy of femininity more broadly, but it's so weird to see it discussed in this way, I guess.
Yeah. No, it is. Fuck. I don't know. I just don't know what to say about it. It's just weird.
It's hard to find words for it, right?
Yeah. Because you're right. And that kind of came across also like in the Breakfast in Bed one, the way that like this book discusses women. Yeah. Is that they're like perfect creatures that do all this stuff, but also like there is limitations to them, and like, of course, obviously that's just a human thing. There's not an endless human being that can do everything.
Well, I don't know. Like, I think women can do anything. I don't know why you're being anti-feminist right now.
Shit. But no, it's just like the ways it goes back and forth talking about women is like these free creatures that are also like yours to mend and like control and influence is a very weird thing in this book.
I've got the third and final excerpt here. This is in a section at the back of the book. There's a section called Extreme Dates.
Extreme.
And I was hoping it would be like...
That's where Coke dates.
That's the thing. I was hoping for cocaine. I was hoping for like rock climbing maybe. I think they're just called the Extreme Dates because they cost more money. Like one of them was go to a Broadway show.
What? Okay. Yeah,
that's not extreme.
No.
It's just more expensive. This is Table for Two. Dress up for this special daddy-daughter occasion. Knock on the door to pick up your date. Tell your daughter how beautiful she is and place the corsage on her wrist or dress. Give her your arm and escort her to the car. Open the car door for her and chauffeur her to a fine dining restaurant or tea room. When you're at the restaurant, be the perfect gentleman. Open the door for her, take her coat, pull out her chair, and use your best table manners. Choose an entree from the menu that you wouldn't ordinarily have at home. And of course, order the most decadent desserts the restaurant offers. And then the prayer? Dear Lord, thank you for our wonderful time together tonight. It seemed almost perfect. I don't know why almost. That's weird. We're so excited about the future you have planned and the place you are preparing for us. We know it will be more beautiful and perfect than anything we can imagine. Give us patience as we wait for you to take us home. Come soon. Amen. I love that this ends with with just like a full-throated plea to fucking die.
Oh God, it's so traditional. And like, you know, throughout all of this, as I feel like with a lot of the things we've talked about on the show so far, it's like on the surface level, like a father having a decent relationship with their daughter is not a like bad thing. No. That's not what we're saying here. That's like a really good thing, but it gets weird when it's like, and now submit to God, your holiness, his holiness. So I assume in this scenario, they're going to be like an 8-year-old kid. To like treat them as like an equivalent date is so weird. I hesitate to put it this way, but it's like they're literally preparing them for men. That's like what this is.
Oh yes, absolutely.
It's like an older man, the father, of course, like creating their like for other men, like the perfect girl.
Yes,
and it's so weird.
And there's this thing too of they say doing this is going to equip them to be better judges of character, right? Like it's going to allow these daughters to then be like, oh, well, this guy has what I want or what I don't want. But that's not what you're doing. You're just saying that the model of the person that they should date is just somebody who reminds them of their dad.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess that's not necessarily a problem exactly if the dad is like a good guy, but
which, as we know, not always going to be the case.
That's
we don't
the
live in a
thing.
perfect world.
That's the
Most
thing.
often, I can easily imagine a world where some father is reading this book and is a piece of shit.
Yes,
and is trying to do these things.
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, even if the dad is a good guy, there's a big difference in terms of what you look for in a romantic partner, either a short-term or a long-term partner, and what you want from a parent. They're just very different things.
Yeah. And again, all of this just reinforces traditional gender roles, which I, of course, do not a fan of. Thumbs down. Thumbs down.
Well, in that case, I regret to inform you that this episode is going to keep getting worse because...
Thumbs down. 2 thumbs down.
I'm going to read you an excerpt from the other book, Daddy Dates by Greg Wright.
Sorry, before we move on too far past the first book,
yes.
I just love the dad-to-dad section
yes.
of the table for two.
Yes.
It's like, borrow or rent a limo or a sports car? What? Like, who are we trying to impress here? Like, what are these expectations you were instilling in your like kid? Like, no matter who it is, like whether it's a girl or a boy, is that like you should aspire to have like a sports car? Like, that's not what it should be about. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy for that.
I don't know. I like driving sports cars personally.
I've never done it.
I think this is a dad-to-dad recommendation for like, this is something about doing it that will make it fun for you, is to rent a Corvette. And I think that's probably true, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, yeah, that might be what it is the author's like, dads, we kind of need something like this. We're kind of bored sometimes.
I am, as you know, a serious transit enthusiast, but
right.
I love getting behind the wheel of a good car. It's fun.
I guess I've never been in a fancy car. The fanciest I've ever been in is just like my own car, which is like a piece of shit. So.
Well, maybe you need to just treat yourself. Go to a car rental place and get yourself one of those luxury cars and just zoom around.
I'm going to rent a limo to bring myself to a Coke date.
Perfect. So, Daddy Dates by Greg Wright. When my eldest turned 13, I realized that I really needed to bring my A game because this is when daughters need dad the most. That's why the 13th birthday daddy date is a really big deal in the Wright household. It's the most emotional and meaningful one by far, and critical to the success of our relationship. So for me, it's a must-do in the dress-up department. Austin's a laid-back town, and I love that, but number 13 deserves extra special attention. She gets a new outfit, I spit-shine my shoes, and this is definitely a special restaurant date. And I'm careful to choose one where we can really hear each other, because I want to talk to my brand new teen about her life and what that will look like in the coming years. Mostly, I use this occasion to make sure she knows that dad is her go-to guy and that she can count on me to come through no matter what. And as a token of that deep commitment, I give her a pretty ring to wear on her left hand so that she will remember I am giving her my heart, and then in parentheses, in a parental way.
Good clarification.
Promising to be her guide in life and will take care of her financially and emotionally until she's an independent woman or married to that special guy she finds later on. I let her know years in advance that he will have to man up and ask for my permission for her hand in marriage. And that's when my ring comes off, when he puts his on and makes the same promises. It's what I call the transition of care. Does that sound old school, passé, or downright corny? Well, I hear story after story from friends about how their sons are relentlessly pursued by teen girls. And let's face it, now proms are all about the hotel after party, where senior girls are expected or planning to have sex. Right? I've been doing the daddy date thing for 7 years now, and I'm more convinced than ever that taking one-on-one teen dating completely off the table as an option in high school is the best thing I could possibly do for my children. First, like he was so mad when he was writing this. You can hear it.
Yeah.
First, there is no downside. Has anybody ever learned anything valuable about love in the backseat of a car? I want my daughters to value their bodies, sure, but also understand that their bodies do not define who they are. That's the plan anyway. I am trying to teach them that sex, as fun and important as it is in life, will not deliver what they want, which is true love and real intimacy.
You really got the anger across really well in that reading. That was a really good reading of that.
I mean, the thing about, acting is you just sort of have to let the text speak itself.
I always forget that you're in that world, that you're in the theater world. So this is like such a weird thing for me because like I dated while I was in high school, dated the same person after high school. Like we dated for a long time, and it ended up not being like the best relationship. We broke up years after, but like it's saying that there's no value in dating in high school is insane. Like my parents, they have been married, still are married to this day for over probably close to 30 years. I forget exactly when they get married. I'm an awful child. I don't remember their anniversary. I need to, after this, I'm going to ask them just to find out again. But they have been dating since they were like 16 or 17.
They were high school sweethearts?
They are still to this day high school sweethearts. And I think they broke up briefly in high school because, of course, they're whatever. Teens are messy. But they got back together after like a month of not being together, and yeah, they've been together ever since. So it's not like and they're not like like the most secular people. They're not like super Christians either, but for like a hyper Christian to be like, yeah, no, dating is not acceptable until you're like of age at 18, which I hope he thinks being of age is 18 and not like 16 or whatever. But I guess who's to say? I just find that so fascinating because, high school sweethearts are definitely rare, but I know two in my personal life, my parents and friends of mine that I've known since high school. They've been married ever since high school or like after high school. So that's such a weird concept for me, because I know so many examples of it working really well.
Well, I think that it comes back to, it's a podcast about natalism, right? Like at the end of the day, a big piece of what this is that they want to cultivate relationships that will reliably produce children.
Yeah.
That's so much of what it is. And we've talked about this as well. They don't want teen pregnancies exactly. Right? Because if somebody gets pregnant when they are a teenager and then they have to raise the kid, that doesn't provide a stable environment for more children to be born.
Right.
But nor are they necessarily going to discourage it, because they'd still rather those babies be born than the people than the women get abortions or whatever. Right.
Yeah. They will, if a teen gets pregnant, they will not allow them to abort the child.
Right.
They will have that child.
That pregnancy is going through no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that in this case, when all of this stuff points to the idea of a handoff or whatever from the care of the father to the care of the future husband or whatever.
Yes.
It's about sort of securing an amount of stability that then will, again, allow for children to come into the picture and be raised, and preferably as many of them as possible.
Yeah, no, and again, as I think I've said at least twice already, it implies that women are to be owned and used as like baby mills. And it reminds me of a time before women had autonomy of their own, before they could get jobs, before they could open bank accounts, before they could actually own anything. Like during a time when women worked on like textiles at home with their family, with their mom. And
that's what we call a Proverbs 31 wife right there with the textiles.
Yeah. Going biblical on you right now.
That's right.
Yeah, no, but that implies like a time of when like a woman is the father's like worker, like owner, and then like a family across the way, across the farm, comes up to you and is like, I think we could arrange something for my son and your daughter. And then that's it,
Well, and we're going to talk about a few other examples of that kind of thing going forward here as well in this episode, where we're going to look at a guy who does some of that stuff exactly, of being like, you, my daughter, don't get to start dating somebody until I've had a chance to communicate with them and give them my approval.
It just reminds me of those people that are like, I think I've seen shirts of these, but like there's like boomer posts about this too, of like an image of a shotgun.
Yeah, of
and
course.
It's like father's rules for dating my daughter.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so much of this like ideology as well.
Well, dating your daughter is all well and good. Obviously, that's our conclusion here. Dating your daughter, it's cool. Everybody should do it. We love it.
I think my takeaway is it's probably good to have a good relationship with your children.
No, exactly.
Yeah, that's like a good thing to do if you're a parent.
If you're a dad,
like you should do things
hang out with your
children.
kids.
Yeah.
You know, and hang out with your kids in a one-on-one setting sometimes too.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Don't make it weird.
Definitely don't bring them on a Coke date.
Don't dare do it.
Let them, like, they need to get a little bit older for that one.
That's right. But I think one example of this kind of mindset that was a real media phenomenon for a while was the idea of a purity ball. Now, June, before we put this episode together, had you heard of purity balls?
So actually, right before starting to record, I was telling my roommate what we were going to be talking about tonight, and she was telling me about how growing up, she grew up in Kentucky. They were called I'm already blanking on the name, but she participated in one of those like dance events where they teach you like proper etiquette.
Oh, like a debutante ball?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Told me about like experiencing those as a child. Is this anything related to those?
I mean, it's sort of like a bastardized evangelical Christian version of a debutante ball, I would say.
Okay.
Whereas with debutante balls, so much of the focus is, of course, on presenting traditional femininity and being desirable, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
That is a piece of the purity ball thing, but the biggest piece of it is just to establish a bond between a father and a daughter that is grounded in the idea of securing the kid's purity.
Yeah, so that I feel like that's what a lot of this leads up to, right? A lot of the like dating your daughter and like an establishing, I think is like as like a Christian pure child to like save yourself for the one, saving yourself for marriage.
Right. And I should just frame this up top that purity balls, even within evangelical Christianity, are not, I mean, at this point, I don't even know if anybody does them at all anymore. But even back at sort of their peak in like the mid 2000s, it's not like they were super duper common.
Right.
But it was one of those things where the concept was so odd that it proved to be an absolute media feeding frenzy. Just a little bit of background on this. This concept of the purity ball was originated by a guy named Randy Wilson and his wife, Lisa. And wouldn't you know it, they live in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
It's one of the two. There's only two places.
And this is my favorite part. Randy is a field director for something called the Family Research Council.
If you told me we talked about the Family Research Council before, I would believe you. If you told me this is the first time we're talking about Family Research Council, I'd be like, yeah, this is the first time we're talking about it. I don't fucking know. They're all named this.
The Family Research Council is the policy clearinghouse founded in part by James Dobson.
Right. Okay. So it is that same one.
It's that same one.
Okay.
It's the same one. Tony Perkins. Remember how it's like, who would my number two with a bullet be? It's him.
That dude.
Tony Perkins is the director here. The Family Research Council, for those not familiar, is a lobbying organization that serves as an informational clearinghouse for Christian nationalist objectives. They do this in a lot of different ways. One of the big ways they do it is through something called family policy councils, which are state-level organizations that work with state legislatures to advance model versions of bills that will end up making their way to the national level. It's kind of like ALEC, if you're familiar with what they do, except specifically for Christian shit. And Randy Wilson is specifically the director for something called Watchmen on the Wall. Basically, the idea of Watchmen on the Wall is that they circulate Christian nationalist talking points to pastors. And pastors can also come to these events in DC that they do every so often, where they talk about how like separation between church and state is not real. And, you know, we need to fight against the globo homo, whatever. And Randy's job is to coordinate everything, the talking points, the events, getting that stuff out to the pastors and making sure that all of the messaging is lined up correctly. And he still has this job today. So the Wilsons have 7 kids. These are people who see being fruitful and multiplying as a very literal commandment.
Right.
The first purity ball was held in 1998, and it was like 100-ish people in attendance, I believe. And the idea is a dad and your daughter, you come in, it's this nice evening where, you know, the dad gets to dress up in his suit or his military uniform if he's in the military, because again, it's Colorado Springs, half of them are in the Air Force. And the girls do like a weird little ballet where they like raise a cross and then the dads sign a pledge saying that they are going to look after their daughter's purity. And that puts the purity in the purity ball. And as I was saying, this stuff is just like catnip for camera crews, particularly Europeans.
Okay.
Europeans see this shit and they're like, this is what everybody in America does. It really is one of those things where the European imagination cannot comprehend it. So both of the like big documentaries that were done about the Wilsons were by Europeans. There was a Channel 4 documentary. That was the one that we watched. It's like 45-ish minutes long.
Really good.
And then there is also a feature length that was done by a Swiss team. And both of these movies, I think, are interesting because they show you not just what the thing is, but the specificity of the people behind it and how their unique brainworms contributed to this, event.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. The Channel 4 one, I think, does a really good job of like talking to some of the people involved. And I don't know how deep you wanted to get into parts of it, so I don't want to go too quickly. But like,
well, I pulled some clips, so
okay. Yeah.
We can just talk about what was it about this documentary that jumped out at you the most?
I showed you the screenshot of the part that like disturbed me the most. It was like, I forget, maybe 10 minutes in, where there's a young girl being interviewed for this documentary, and next to her is her father. Stephen Miller looking fella.
Oh, he's a creepy looking guy.
And the whole time, the interviewer's asking and talking with the daughter. She might be like 9, 10, 11, 12, something in that range.
Once I've found a man who I think I might want to get to know a little better, I'll take him to my dad for inspection. Inspection. Yeah. And I'll spend a lot of time with my dad, and if it's maybe the right guy, I'll do group dating with my friends where they get their, I don't want to say boyfriends because they won't be, what should I say?
Their brothers that they may be interested in.
Yeah, them. And we'll all go out to dinner with our parents and we'll talk and get to know each other.
And will you be allowed to spend time alone together?
At a certain stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine it would progress, and that would be important to have a conversation without mom and dad just eavesdropping over the ear.
It just feels like he is like lording over her. It's
something
so weird.
Feels deeply wrong. It's like this feeling.
I was like scared watching it. It was terrifying. Like, she does not look like a child that's having a good time being a child.
No, that it would not appear that way.
No.
And who knows? Like, at the end of the day, this is just one documentary that's capturing one thing. I will say though that dad has dark-sided energy. I was not about him.
And it's like, this is kind of like a weird aspect of this too. Like, it's weird to like. I feel like this all has maybe an intentional consequence, but the unintentional, they're just a consequence of this whole purity ball, this like daddy-daughter thing, where it sort of forces the girl to like really think about being an adult so young and like dating seriously.
And it's so interesting that you say that too, because I feel like, and we talked about this with abstinence-only sex education, that oftentimes what these people will say is, well, how dare you teach about sex to our young, innocent kids? But the things that, like, age-appropriate sex education is for kids that age is like, you have private parts that nobody else should be allowed to touch. And, when you get older, there's mommies and daddies and blah, 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 blah. And like, that's it. Whereas you're exactly right. Here, they are already framing up this idea of like, you're going to be a woman and you're going to blah, 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 blah. And they're
and
like,
importantly,
fucking,
you will be a wife to a man.
Exactly. And I am going to give you away to this man. And in the meantime, I'm protecting your purity. And it's like, these kids are
horrifying.
9. These are 9-year-old girls. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, it's like imposing. It's like taking away their childhood in a really weird way. It's a very weird thing.
So I've got a couple clips here. Here is Lisa and Randy, again, the Wilsons, the ones who came up with this whole idea, talking about the concept and where it came from.
We wanted to create an event that was so spectacular to the heart of a daughter with her father that would be a turning point, maybe for their relationship, maybe even for future generations. When a father engages in the heart of his daughter, the result is going to be a daughter that feels valued and doesn't necessarily run out to get validations physically from young men. That she would say, I am valuable and worthy, and I expect to be treated like this by the future men in my life.
So what jumps out at me about this, well, first of all, is Lisa herself. She's kind of like, she sort of looks like Jennifer Coolidge. Like, what if Jennifer Coolidge was wrong? Maybe that's,
and I love Jennifer Coolidge.
Maybe that's mean, but like, that's kind of her thing. Everything about Lisa it seems very close to the surface. Like, half the time she's getting interviewed, she's crying. She is so invested in this idea of a young woman's identity being fundamentally molded by her relationship with her father because of the fact, in her mind, that it's the relationship with her husband that will guide her for the remainder of her life.
Right.
What you'll notice is that there is almost nothing in there about her own agency. The idea is not by connecting with dad will, tell her all the things that are cool about her, and then she'll be able to explore those things on her own time and discover who she really is as a person. No, it's all women need external validation, and the primary role of a father should be to provide that external validation, because without that, they will have no self-worth whatsoever.
But there's like a contradiction here in that what she says there is like, oh, we're doing this to not let our children to find external validation from men. But that seems to break down when that's the only thing that actually technically matters on a base level when they're like 18. And sure, it might be different than like what they mean is like sexual. When she says that, she means like seeking validation in the sexual sense.
Right.
But like, is that really that much of a distinction? If in their world the only value to a woman's life is to like be married to a man, how is that any different? If all it is ownership, if all it is to have a child for the man to be the perfect wife, like is that really that different? I don't think so.
No, it's. I would argue it's not, but I also think that last point that you made is the important point, which is that the child comes in,
right? And
in this framework, the child is the reward.
Right.
You have to put up with living an unfulfilled life and seeking attachment, because once you find that attachment, your husband and that relationship with him will be the first piece of the reward, and the child, or the children, really, and there should be as many as possible.
Right.
That's the big payoff, because raising those children is then the primary, if not exclusive, domain of the mother.
Right.
And then, the dad can get involved to provide external affirmation and validation, but it's not his core task. It's the mother's core task.
Right. This is all like a natalist and anti-feminist program. It's not to develop like people into fulfilled human beings. It's to develop girls into women, to have children.
Yeah, breeding machines.
That is their life's purpose. That is what this is.
So here's Randy talking about his side of the story.
There's a core question that the feminine, if you will, the woman has in their being that needs to be answered. And that is, am I beautiful? Am I worthy of being pursued? Because they do go through that time where they feel awkward. They don't feel beautiful. It must be enforced by the father, the man in their life. If they do not get that reinforced by their father, they will go outside the home to get the answer to that question.
So the woman understander has logged on. A couple thoughts that I have here. I mean, first one is, men also have that desire.
Right.
And I always get so frustrated with this stuff, because it's like these things that you are presenting as being strictly gendered, strictly binary. It's like, no, everybody wants to feel desired. Everybody wants to feel attractive. There's nothing specifically feminine about that.
Yeah, like if that weren't the case, like people who maybe don't like that they're balding, men that don't like that they're balding wouldn't get like hair implants.
Exactly.
Like, that's like inherently incorrect what he's saying.
And also, I'm sorry, but like if you look at some pictures of the thing about Randy is he has this kind of like Tom Cruise thing going on in terms of both his appearance and his countenance. He's like he's unsettling in the same way that Tom Cruise is unsettling. He just talks in a way that just is a little bit. It's like there's something wrong about this guy.
Yeah,
but you'll notice. If you pay attention to him and you look at stuff from him from over the years, he's kept up his appearance quite well. It's clear that he cares about his appearance because that external validation matters to him.
Right. And like, not even to get into all of this, because this is a whole can of worms that honestly is a whole topic in itself, but just like the politics of being attractive. That is like a very important thing. There is a reason why Fox News has very thin blonde anchors that are all like white and like, you know, like there's a reason why a lot of these people look the way they do. There is a very intentional aesthetic behind it for the political purpose that they are trying to impose. And that absolutely goes behind him as well. Like that is, it's not just for women. It's for men and women. It's for everyone.
And the footage that we see then of the balls themselves are more or less what you would expect. But one of the other interesting pieces of this documentary is that they include an interview with a young woman who did do the purity pledge at one point, and then she ended up going out with a guy. They had sex. She got pregnant. They were going to do a shotgun wedding, but then she miscarried. And at that point, she was like, wait, I don't actually want to get married anymore. And this is how she then describes what happened with her family as a result of that.
I think my mom still holds it over my head because up until that point, she trusted me. And she trusted my ability to make decisions. And ever since then, she treats me as a lesser person. She still doesn't think I'm capable of making my own decisions to this day. She still doesn't trust me, and she kind of uses that as an excuse to tell me that I don't know what I'm thinking and I don't know my own mind and I'm away from the Lord, and she kind of writes me off as a person, and our relationship has suffered and pretty much fallen apart because of that.
And that just goes like that was her whole interview arc on this documentary. I think was like really illustrative of why all of this is really bad, because not all of this is going to be perfect. If you instill in young adults that sex is bad, then there will be that shame element, like we talked about in the abstinence only education episode. And with this shame, there will be like, and it doesn't even sound like this was necessarily the case with her. She told her parents quite quickly, but the parents like ousted her, shame her, even to this day as a whole ass adult.
Well, but also so interesting too, you know, the shame and the way that she kind of got pushed out, that didn't happen after she announced that she was pregnant.
Right. It was after
it was only after she decided she didn't want to get married to that guy anymore because she was no longer pregnant.
Right.
And I think that again points to the centrality of I don't want to say natalism again because that's not quite what I mean.
I think what you're trying to say is like project of like passing off daughters to like not have them have a like time of their own where they're not like immediately passed off from father to husband.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They want to encourage a seamless handoff. and at the end of that handoff, lots and lots of babies.
It's fascinating to me that so many people can just live this way, that a mother can look at their daughter and be like, oh, you had a miscarriage and you don't want to marry this specific guy, which, let's be clear, there's like millions of guys out there. There's guys. There's endless amounts of guys.
They're doomy guys. You're so valid for that.
It's not like she's doomed at the age of 18. Right. Like, what are we talking about here? How can you just have this sense of like disappointment in someone? I knew someone in college who, very religious, was dating a very religious man, and like, you know, I was not very religious in college, but I was still friends with her just through like social scene I was in. She was just kind of she was around, and they were these kind of people that they were dating to get married, to have lots of kids, and it's fucking like it. I feel like if they, after college, didn't get married, there would have been a sense of shame there. I feel like that would have been a real thing that they would have felt, and probably their families, knowing how religious they were.
Did they, I'm assuming they went ahead and now they have a whole bunch of kids?
I think they have 2 at this point. Yeah, they have kids. Yeah.
Only 2?
I think so far. I would have to check in. I don't often check in with them, I'll be totally honest.
I have every once in a while gone on Facebook and like looked up people who I'm not friends with them on Facebook, but the kids I remember from high school, all of the girls have profile pictures with their husbands and often their kids, but like they then put their entire identity into their marriage and into their family rather than establishing sort of a sense of identity outside of it.
Yeah.
And
that worries me a lot of the time. Like, obviously, there's a lot of marriages that work out like that. There's a lot of like, oh, whatever, or at least on the surface, at least. Obviously, I can't know every relationship. I just feel like, and you've probably seen this play out too, where like there have been cases of this type of family starting, this type of marriage, and then the woman in the marriage, maybe the man, I don't really know, but I feel like this normally happens from the woman's perspective, starts to be like, oh, I don't like my husband at all. There's there's a disconnect, and then the relationship, marriage falls apart. And then like her whole identity, other than her kids that they still usually have, is like shattered. That whole identity is completely shattered.
Well, and this completely counters the narrative that you will have built up for yourself if you grow up in this culture, right?
Yeah.
If you're a girl who, from the age of, 7, has been getting all of this messaging about how once you get older, you're going to find your husband and you're going to be swept off your feet and it's going to be amazing and wonderful and lovely and perfect.
And we know the divorce rates, they're quite high. It's like 50% of marriages end in divorce, maybe even higher than 50%. Like it's like, it sucks to say it, but like most relationships don't usually last.
But I think that what you end up doing is you build this narrative in your head that ends up being impossible in the vast majority of cases, right? And then you can do one of two things. You can face up to the fact that the thing is not what you thought the thing would be and then make changes accordingly. Or you can just push it down. And just push it down, push it down, push it down, push it down.
One thing I will say, which I don't typically talk about like my relationships too much online, just because it's like, okay, not something you normally do. I feel like, especially at a certain point with how insane everyone is online. But like, I've been in like over the last like 5 years. I mean, I've been dating pretty much most of my like teen and adult life. I don't think I've been single for longer than a year.
Well, did your father hand you off to somebody suitable? Or
No, he did not.
Well, what the fuck?
But what maybe this is where my problems lie. But like the thing I had learned is like through dating like 3 people up until the point I'm at now, in those different relationships, I like grew a lot as a person. I learned what I didn't want in a relationship. I learned where problems might lie in relationships, especially with like where I need to like grow and change as a person, because like everyone needs to like like get better. And like dating people is a part of that sometimes. Like dating is part of growing. And like without the relationships I've had, most have ended on like pretty much great terms at the end of the day. But like I feel like relationships ending isn't a tragedy all the time. For me, relationships ending has correlated with like some of the biggest growth in my life as an individual. And these people in these cultures, these Christian purity cultures, won't really get to experience that and learn from themselves. Like there's so much value in people learning for themselves firsthand, making mistakes, and you're not allowing a kid to make these like minor mistakes. Of course, like I'm not saying people need to get pregnant as a teen, but I'm saying
okay. Thank you for clarifying.
What I'm saying, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think it's important to like make mistakes in dating and like in relationships and interpersonal relationships. It's really important, and this is sort of shielding children from that, and I don't like that. It's shielding kids from learning is not good.
And you see this with a lot of evangelical stuff where there's a certain fear of any kind of emotional pain.
Yeah.
Or the sort of the opposite extreme is there's this sense of like, it's all going to be pain and you just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Rather than giving yourself the space to see what kind of pain is unexpected pain, a pain that can be overcome, a pain that can be understood. What kind of pain is intolerable? What kind of pain is coming from, I don't know, a husband who is being physically abusive or emotionally abusive towards you, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can say, well, if your dad loves you and treats you like a princess and blah, 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 you're going to have a great model that's going to set you up for good relationships in the future. But if you're not given permission to listen to your own instincts and everything has to be gatekept by somebody else, well, no, then that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen at all.
It's sort of unfair to people. It's unfair to gatekeep all of this.
Yeah. So the documentary we were talking about so far, again, is that Channel 4 documentary. There's a link to it down in the notes. There was also that Swiss documentary that I mentioned called Virgin Tales, the full-length one. They were embedded with the Wilson family for like 2 years. And it also captured the 2010 Republican wave, you know, the Tea Party.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more explicit, this documentary, about the connections between sort of the political side of the project and the personal side of the project. And a really interesting moment in this documentary was when there was a purity ring ritual, not a purity ball, but like one of Wilson's daughters, he was doing a purity ring ritual for her. I think she was turning 13. These people have reinvented bar and bat mitzvahs from first principles, which I think is really funny.
Fascinating, yeah.
But this woman gives this speech that I think speaks to the project that we talk about on this show every week.
I want to talk to you about fruitfulness. If and when God brings that godly man into your life and opens your womb, becoming a mother will be one of the most profound and significant things you will ever do. Biblical fruitfulness is the opposite of what today's culture promotes. Our culture actually celebrates barrenness. The youth culture of our day that you are in the middle of, especially, is not focused on producing and giving, but on consumption and entitlement. While you're not physically fruitful yet, you can certainly be fruitful in the many different areas during these important years.
They're like trying to create a culture of people who shouldn't be individuals. They're shaming people for like having a life in a sense, for like enjoying their lives and just kicking them into child rearing as young as possible. Like I'm sure that she would love if her child had got pregnant at like 18 or 19. Like a lot of these people. It certainly sounds that way, yeah. Absolutely. Like there is no other value in life other than to do that. And that's so fucking ominous. Again, I am not against people having children. I just think it's weird to like groom your child into that being their entire purpose.
Well, and I've got a really good quote here too. This is from Ebony Statham, who wrote for Cypher magazine. And Statham, by the way, went to a purity ball when she was a kid and then sort of wrote about what that experience was like in retrospect. The purity ball works to construct gender by creating a structure of dominance. Females are to remain pure and abstain from sex, and young boys do not have to worry about being damaged from sex, and therefore do not go through the process. Society has idealized virginal and therefore pure female bodies. Not only that, but in the structure of the ceremony, fathers are the guardians of that virginity, defining female sexuality by male dominance. This dominance leads to the commodification of female sexuality. It becomes something to be controlled and traded from father to husband.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as I'm reading banger quotes.
Oh, God, yeah.
I was glad that I was able to find so much good writing on this. I wanted to save some, like, actual good critique for the end, because I know that listening to all that shit has been a lot. So here's a good one. This is from Brianne Foss, who wrote an article called Daddy's Little Girls. It was published in Frontiers, a journal of women's studies, in 2010. The language of purity balls also reflects deep-seated psychoanalytic implications. Daughters often describe these events as going on a date with their fathers. For example, Scottsdale, Arizona mother Mona McDonald said that a purity ball, quote, gives them a chance to get together and get all dressed up fancy, and the dads teach their daughters what a date should be like, end quote. This language implies that women not only date their fathers, but learn how to date by going out with their fathers. The sexualization of the father-daughter relationship sits prominently within this language. Not only must the future husband earn the father's approval, but he must mimic the father in order to earn the daughter's love. The sexual implications of such a paradigm are overwhelming, as the father stands in for the lover while teaching the daughter how to interact with and romanticize that same lover. Fathers become not only guardians of their daughter's sexuality, but also substitutes for the daughter's sexual/romantic object choices.
Yeah, no, these are this culture, this purity culture. It implicitly, not even implicitly. It's
no, I think it's quite overt.
It's overtly like hierarchical men above women.
Yeah,
that is an insane. That's exactly what they're reinforcing with this ideology.
And I feel like too, I don't know. I mean, maybe we have some listeners who have firsthand experience with this stuff.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that if you have been told as a girl, like, whenever you end up dating, it sure should be a guy who is as nice to you as I am to you. Hearing that coming from your dad, I feel like that would fuck you up a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like that would give you a daddy complex.
Yeah, no, genuinely, if anyone has any experience with this, I don't know anyone personally that's ever gone through anything like this, that has been raised in this culture of like father-daughter sort of purity culture. It's not something I've come across other than reading about it online. So,
but we famously have a mailbag, and we will keep your name anonymous if you so desire. So let us know, seriously. So the last thing that I wanted to just point up here, because it always comes back to the broader political project, right?
For sure.
Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. It turns out that he and his daughter went to a purity ball.
No, come on. Of course there's someone in Congress for these like this like strange small, because these are like rather small these days, right? Like they're not like big events.
They never were that big. It was just one of those things where, I mean, I think at some point maybe there were like 100 of them a year going on tops or something like that. There's no reliable way of knowing. And the problem with evangelicals is they exaggerate about everything.
Right.
I think that the thing about the purity ball is less like, oh my God, this is such a phenomenon where it was happening all over the place. It's more that this is, I think, a very effective case study in specific attitudes that do prevail throughout sort of this subculture. But yeah, Mike Johnson, basically somebody dug up some footage of him and his daughter at a purity ball for a documentary that was on German television, because again, these fucking Europeans were obsessed. And you know that Randy Wilson was on the Family Research Council's broadcast to defend that motherfucker.
Oh, God, of course.
Mike Johnson, this is just unbelievable how the left media is continually trying to go after him. He's a good father. He's a Christian man. He's a Christian father. He's a Christian husband. Why does the fact of him living out his Christian faith drive the left so mad?
Well, they can't control him. Imagine if we had a nation of faithful men like Mike Johnson. It would be different place here, and we wouldn't be battling all the fights that are on every front here, and particularly the family, as it's being broken apart piece by piece. The culture can only pull down and bring down the family and good men like Speaker Johnson.
And that's what all of this is really about. It's about like control. It's about like not letting your child learn for themselves. It's not allowing them to, maybe if they think they might be gay, to be like, oh, maybe I'm gay. Oh, and that's like, it's a culture thing. Like, as it very explicitly mentions in that clip, like it is them basically taking control in whatever they can, in whatever way they can.
Yeah, including control of governmental institutions. Again, Mike Johnson
culture,
is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. You know,
he's a very, very influential man. Like especially under Donald Trump.
Right.
Yeah, it's about control. It comes back to control over children. It's control over just women in general. It's about control.
And it's always so interesting to me the way that all of the sort of niceties and platitudes melt away when they're talking to their base, especially about matters political, where it's so clear that it's just about power. It's nakedly about the control and exercise of power.
And he says there, it's the left freaking out about good Christian men. And it's like, I don't think all Christian men are like this. Like, I'm going to be honest here. Like, that is not how all Christian men are. It is like the way that the right will like broadly broadly talk about topics. They'll see like a trans person like do a thing, and they'll broaden out to, oh, look at these crazy trans people. But then like when you talk about like a specific group of Christians doing kind of a really strange thing that's probably bad, they're like, oh, the left is just attacking all good Christians. It's like, that's not really what's happening.
No, that's not what's happening, because again, is this a subset of all Christians? Yes. Was the man in that clip the Speaker of the House? Also, yes.
And also of the sect of Christians, yes. Yeah.
Like, come on. It's nakedly disingenuous, but of course it is, right?
Yeah. It goes to, as I feel like we've illustrated on this show a lot, to be like, oh, Christians are under attack. Like it's not meant to inform people. It's meant to get a fire underneath people's feet.
They want to make them mad. Yeah. Angry
exactly.
and scared. That's
the most important part of their whole political project.
So I wanted to read one more quote here. This is from Amy De Regatis, who wrote a book called Saving Sex, Sexuality and Salvation in American Evangelicalism. This book was actually how I found a lot of the other sources. So thank you so much, Amy, for your great work. And this is a great book, too. Everybody should check it out. The insistence that taking a stand for virginity is both brave and empowering is a sign of evangelicals' anxiety about promoting biblical roles for women in secular America. As more American women enter college and the workforce, their roles as mothers and wives are transforming. Women put off childbearing and increasingly are choosing to have children without husbands. Many women in traditional nuclear families work outside of the home, and some have husbands who assume the role of primary caregiver for the children, like what you were saying, June. Conservative evangelicals who believe women should not work outside the home or remain single are faced with a challenge. How do you present an appealing role for women that stands apart from secular culture, yet still provides women with a sense of self-worth that fits their cultural expectations? It seems that at least when it comes to youth, it is not enough to say that young women should remain virgins because the Bible tells you so. What was once called chastity evolved into the purity movement, a radical lifestyle that separates the strong from the weak. Remaining a virgin until marriage stopped being old-fashioned and submissive and became strong and even rebellious. Declaring themselves pure enables evangelical young women to be empowered, strong, valued, and beautiful. In fact, it appears to provide all of the advantages of women's liberation without the drudgery of going to work or having to make tough choices for themselves. Young women can even claim that they are making reproductive choices by choosing to refrain from sex. Viewed in this way, it is easy to see the appeal.
Yeah. This is the attempt, I feel like, of the very conservative, traditional Christian movement to, in a very turnabout way, to, of course, make women's lives all about having children, but to also make it feel like an alternative lifestyle, or like the moral lifestyle. It is about being the moral majority. It's about being a moral person. It's about having values that are above the average person. And what are those values based in? It's based in having children, of course, and like abstaining from the dirtiness of sex and the dirtiness of dating more than one man. Because I think that in that one documentary, the Channel 4 one that we watched too, there was a segment in that where someone is talking about how it's like almost looked down upon to date more than one man at any point in your life. That's what it's all about. It's about saving yourself. It's about, from the women's perspective, it's about saving yourself for the almighty man. It's about saving yourself for a moral purpose. It's about the moment that you're no longer not someone's property, essentially. It's all about that.
So what's a better way forward?
I think, maybe not dating your daughter. That's kind of there's ways to raise children that aren't like strange and repressive.
All right. Well, I guess that's our big takeaway for this week. Be normal and don't date your daughter. We'll see you next week. I'm Josh.
I'm June.
Bye.
Don't date your daughter.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it.